Good morning. I am filming something totally different today because we recently stayed at Walt Disney World. If you know me, if you've been watching me for a while, you know that I used to be a Disney World annual pass holder. I live here in Central Florida. So Disney World is not a new thing to me or to my family, but we recently did a Disney World stay in a way that we have not done it maybe ever. At least we haven't done it in a very long time. So I wanted to kind of do a different type of video today, talking about how we did Walt Disney World and kind of walk you through a few of the steps that you have to take if you have never been to Walt Disney World before. The truth of the matter is Walt Disney World is a very complicated vacation, or in my opinion, it's very complicated. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things you have to plan in advance. It's not the kind of thing you can just decide spur of the moment, hey, let's go to Disney World next month and show up and buy your tickets there. It's a lot more complicated than that. So I wanted to do this video partly because I think it's complicated and it doesn't need to be, but also because I wanted to save some memories. So we went with some family that is very special and precious to us. Sean, Abby, and Caroline went with us, and actually they're the reason we booked this trip. So I do have some B-roll, some clips of meeting characters and some, bits and pieces of the park that I'm going to be including in this video. So for me, this video is going to be a treasure, but I hope that somebody finds it a little bit helpful. And I do welcome questions. I'm not a travel agent, but I did kind of plan this trip. Abby helped a lot and did a lot of the legwork too, but I just kind of wanted to summarize the whole trip. So from beginning to end, this is how we did Walt Disney World. So like I said, we've never done Walt Disney World like this before. And what I mean by that is we have never stayed on property and not done all the parks and prioritized the characters over like riding rides. We made it a theme park experience over rides. We purchased dated tickets, so not annual passes, and we went with a very young family who has a child who was 6 years old at the time that we went. So very different kind of experience for me. I have gone to Disney World as a kid. I have never taken a child to Disney World before, especially for the first time. I mean, that was, in a word, magical. And so I'm glad we did it. It was definitely a learning experience for me. So I do want to take you through a timeline of sorts of how this trip went and everything that we did leading up to the trip and then the trip itself. I'm not going to say that this is a perfect recipe and everybody should do this, but it was the perfect recipe for our experience, for what we wanted to get out of the vacation, for the time of year that we went, for, the way that the parks worked at the time that we went. I know that there have been changes announced since we got home. I know that they're saying they're going to start taking park reservations away, and I'm kind of thrilled about it. But everybody experiences Walt Disney World in a different way. And I don't think everybody's going to have the perfect experience if everybody experiences it the same way. But I do know that this worked for us, and we had a great time. So I also want to start out by saying we were exceptionally lucky in a bunch of different instances, and it just felt like this whole trip was sprinkled with pixie dust. I don't think that it could have gone better if we had planned it out to the minute. It was just truly spectacular. I felt the Disney magic on this trip, and it's the first time in a really long time that I have felt that Disney magic, unfortunately. I think a lot of that is due to the people that we went with and their approach to the parks, but it was beautiful, and so I'm gonna get started. So let's rewind about 8 months or so. So as I'm filming this, it is the beginning of May. We went to Walt Disney World the end of April, and we planned this trip about 8 months ago. So we received a call from Sean and Abby telling us that they were planning a trip to Florida because they wanted to take Caroline, their 6-year-old daughter, to Walt Disney World. And we live here. They've stayed with us before, and so we welcomed them and we said, yeah, sure, please plan your trip, start saving money. You can stay with us for a few days and then we'll all go. So they started saving money. They started planning their trip, looking at flights. Are they going to fly? Are they going to drive? They decided they didn't want to do a whole week of Walt Disney World, and I think that that was probably a smart choice. So they decided to stay with us for a few days here at our house, and then we all did Walt Disney World for 3 full days together at the end of their trip. So I think that's the way to do it. Walt Disney World can be a really hard vacation. It is a lot of walking. It's a lot of heat. There's, few breaks unless you make yourself take them. Meals can be difficult if you don't plan them far enough in advance. The whole thing is expensive, and the whole time you're trying really hard to get your money's worth because you paid so much to be there. So, taking it easy is almost unheard of. Nobody likes to do that, but I think that that's the way to get an actual vacation out of a Disney World vacation. 8 months ago, we started planning. 6 months ago, I booked a room. So I booked a hotel room at Bay Lake Tower at the Contemporary Resort using our DVC points. So we are DVC members, and we used our DVC points to book a theme park villa, 2-bedroom theme park view villa at Bay Lake Tower. This was one of Mom's dream resorts. She's always wanted to stay there, and we are probably not going to splurge on a theme park view room if it's just the 2 or 3 of us staying there. But we had an excuse. So we did it the way that I feel like you should probably do Bay Lake Tower. If you're going to stay at Bay Lake Tower, don't you want a theme park view? And we were exceptionally lucky, and we got one, and it was beautiful. The room tour is already up if you're interested. So this was probably one of the first points where I felt like, oh, here's a sprinkle of pixie dust. We are very lucky. We were well inside the booking window when I finally made the reservation. I think we were a couple weeks into the booking window. I think it's 6 months, 5 or 6 months. But we were inside the booking window, and I know that because some of the dates were already sold out. So Bay Lake Tower is very popular because of its proximity to Magic Kingdom. And then the theme park view rooms go super fast just because they're so popular, because you can see the theme park from your hotel room. How cool is that? But I was able to score us a room. I could have chosen a room that didn't have the theme park view and it would have been fine. But like I said, I wanted to do, if we're going to do it, I want to do it right. And it was perfect. So we had our room booked about 6 months out from the trip. A couple of months later, I want to say January, we were looking at tickets and park reservations. So I think Abby bought her tickets before I bought my ticket. Mom had a special situation with a ticket, and Emma had a special situation with a ticket. But I think Abby bought her tickets first. And then this is where I think it starts getting really tricky for Disney World rookies, because according to Walt Disney World guidelines, guests who require a ticket, so guests over the age of 2, so if you have a child who is 2 years old or younger, they don't require a park ticket and they don't require a park reservation, and so they don't require a My Disney Experience account. An adult over the age of 13 can manage their own account, so if you have a child who is 14 years of age or older, they can make their own My Disney Experience account and manage their account. But Caroline was 6 and fell into this weird category where she requires an account on the My Disney Experience page or in the app or whatever, so that we can link tickets and park reservations, fast passes, meal reservations to her account. But she's 6 years old. She's not going to manage her own account on the app. She's not going to make reservations. So it was just like, it's kind of weird, I don't know. To me, it's just complicated, but kind of had to coach Abby through, like, making the accounts is important. We have to buy the tickets, link the tickets, make the park reservations with the linked tickets. So everybody has to have a My Disney Experience account. If you've never been before, you have to make an account. Don't forget the password. And then if you have a child under the age of 14, but over the age of 2, then you manage their account with yours. So it was complicated. So Abby purchased a 3-day single park ticket for each person. We decided not to park hop. We had kind of been doing a little bit of planning, like how's this gonna go? Caroline is really into characters, and Disney World was a place to see them, aside from the cruise line, but that's a totally different story. So we decided we were gonna do Magic Kingdom for 2 days, and then the third day, or the other day, we're trying to decide, do we want to do Epcot? Do we want to do Hollywood Studios? Do we want to do Animal Kingdom? And I chose to do Animal Kingdom for a couple of reasons. Epcot and Hollywood Studios have a lot of construction right now, and I didn't want that to be their experience of the Disney World parks. And also, Animal Kingdom, I feel like, is one of the totally underrated Disney World parks, so I thought it would be nice to go and kind of take it easy for a day between our Magic Kingdom days. So that's what we decided to do. So she got the single park ticket, not the park hopper ticket, saved a little bit of money, and it kind of gave us a lot of peace of mind, because if we were done at the park that we started out of the day, we could go home. You know, we could go back to the resort, we could get in the pool, we could take it easy and relax a little bit. And if we had had the park hopper ticket, it would have felt like almost an obligation to, let's visit the other park. We have to go really hard in 2 parks in 1 day. So not doing the park hopper ticket, it was a choice that we made, and I'm glad we made it. And I would do it exactly the same again. So after purchasing the tickets, linking the tickets to the accounts, we had to make park reservations. So this is totally new to someone who's never been to Walt Disney World before, and Abby was so like on top of it. She was so good. And I could just tell her, hey, we need to make sure we have reservations for everybody. We got it done. But it was like going through the process, I'm just thinking, gosh, this is so hard. And I don't know how someone who has never done this before would know about all of these things that they have to do. Like, there's just so much planning that you have to do in advance of the Disney World vacation. So it's kind of why I wanted to make this video. Okay, so back to the timeline. Tickets are purchased, accounts for Abby, Sean, and Caroline are made, tickets are linked, reservations are made to get into the parks. So we're all set and ready to go. Almost. So 60 days out from the park reservation, like the first day at the park, you are able to book dining reservations. And I had this day marked on my calendar from like day 1. When we knew they were coming and we knew what day we were going to be at the parks, when I booked that hotel room, I marked the 60-day mark, because I knew there are several reservations I want to make, and if you don't get them immediately, you're probably not going to get them at all. So I booked dining at 2 o'clock for lunch on the first day and the second day, because it wasn't like peak lunchtime, it's not dinner time, it's kind of like mid-afternoon, which I think is the heat, like peak heat of the day, so it gets us inside out of the heat. I wanted a sit-down dining experience in each park, just so I could be sure that, one, we're all going to get to eat at least once in the park each day, and also it'll like force us to sit down and take a break. So we're going to get food, and we're going to get a break, and we're going to get a place to eat and sit down. And it's not like we're going to a mobile order place, then we have to find a bench or a place to just kind of crouch and eat, or eat while we're walking. Disney World does not do a whole lot of benches, which is one of their failures. Another tangent I could go off on, but I'm not going to. Anyway, we made a dining reservation for lunch on the first day at Magic Kingdom at the Skipper Canteen. And then I made a lunch reservation on the second day in Animal Kingdom at the Yak and Yeti. And then on the last day, Friday, back at the Magic Kingdom, I was able to book breakfast at Cinderella's Royal Table inside the castle. And these reservations go so fast. I was so relieved to be able to get this one, because I knew Caroline's really into princesses. It's a character breakfast. She's gonna get time with the characters inside the castle. and it was magical. I also made us a dining reservation in the evening on Friday at the Crystal Palace, which happened to be another dining experience with characters, but these were the Winnie the Pooh characters, which is who I'm wearing on my shirt today, by the way. I don't even know if you can see him. There he is. But I wanted to have dinner in the park on Friday because I made one final reservation on Friday that was not a dining reservation, but I was able to book a reservation for Caroline at the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique in the castle. So it felt like a big deal. I felt another rush of pixie dust. I flew high on these bookings for a couple of weeks, and I was very happy and hopeful and excited, and it gave me a lot of joy to be able to know that we're going to be able to do these things with our family. So it's great. All right, so now that we have our dining reservations, now we are like really close. So fast forward to about a week before the trip, I made a packing list, and this is normal, you know, for a vacation. I have another packing list going right now for another trip that I'm planning to go on soon, but it was a slightly different kind of packing list because not only am I taking clothes to wear and, you know, like toiletries and things, but also we're going to be staying in a DVC resort which has a full kitchen inside the hotel room, and I wanted to take food with us. We could have placed a Walmart order for delivery to the hotel, but since we live here in Central Florida, I was like, well, we can just take stuff from the house. We don't have to buy groceries. So I made a packing list of like grocery things that I wanted to take with us. We took some stuff, like there's a coffee maker in the resort, so we took some coffee and things to put in the coffee that make the coffee worth drinking. We took some breakfast stuff, just like quick breakfast sandwiches that we can eat before we go to the park. Gives us a little bit of energy and power, you know, to get through the day, at least to lunchtime. And then we took like sandwich fixings so we could have a sandwich for when we took breaks in the middle of the day to go back to the hotel and get in the pool. They were here in Florida for a whole week, so they were actually here with us for 3 or 4 days before we all went to Disney World together. So while they were here at the house, we had grilled, so we took some like leftover grilled burgers and hot dogs with us and some buns and stuff. Really easy leftovers that we could heat up and eat, and it was like a quick meal, but it was good food. So the morning that we left to go to Bay Lake Tower to, you know, begin our stay, we packed up a cooler, we loaded up all of our luggage and stuff into the van, and we drove over to the resort. The drive from our house to Bay Lake Tower is 35, maybe 40 minutes, not really bad at all. I think we left the house around 7:30 in the morning. And the reason we left so early was because we had a stroller pickup planned for 9 a.m. So I knew we had sort of like a deadline of a time that we needed to be there. So we drove over, and we got to like drive really close to Magic Kingdom because that's how close Bay Lake Tower is to the Magic Kingdom. And even the parking lot for Magic Kingdom, if you're just going for the day, is farther away. It was really kind of cool. So we pulled up, and the guard at the gatehouse asked us if we had a dining reservation or if we had a hotel reservation. So we did not have to pay for parking, which is sort of like a relief almost, just because it's one less thing to worry about. But after learning we had a park reservation and a hotel reservation, he let us in. I pulled up under the awning, and this is where we divided and conquered. So I went inside and spoke to somebody at the front desk about checking in later, and Sean went and found a very nice man at Bell Services to help us unload the van, and they collected all the luggage and the coolers out of the van, and they put them on a luggage cart. We didn't have a room yet, keep that in mind, so Bell Services was able to keep our bags so they weren't in the car like baking all day long. I was kind of worried about the cooler, but we had one of those like Yeti style coolers, so all of our groceries stayed nice and cool until we got our room later in the day. But we were able to unload the car. Sean went and parked the car. I went to guest services to like begin the check-in process, and I received a text message almost immediately that said, hey, your room's not ready yet, but you'll receive a text when your room is ready. And she did tell me that the room would be ready later in the afternoon. Check-in's not until 4 p.m. So this was before 9 a.m. I think it's close to 8:15, 8:30 a.m. But we were able to drop off all of our stuff, and we had spoken to somebody at the front desk, so they knew we were there, we were coming, and she was able to print out our room keys. And one of the things that I didn't realize, and I don't know, I guess I should have known this, but our room keys doubled as our park tickets. I was so worried we were gonna have to either use the phones as our like park ticket, because I've never had a good experience with that, I'm not gonna lie. Or like we're gonna have to go to will call and, you know, wait in a huge long line to get our tickets printed. She printed all of our tickets. She wrote our names on the back of them so we knew whose ticket was whose. And she even got a little like first time button for Caroline, and later on we picked one up for Abby. But like this saved us so much time, because she was like, yeah, sure, I can print your tickets right here. Or like your room key doubles as your ticket, because I asked for like a physical card. I'm sure we could have used the app, but I liked that I didn't have to be on my phone during my vacation. It was so nice. So this was a game changer for me. This was another little sprinkle of pixie dust for me, just because I would always rather have like a hard copy of a key or a printed menu. Call me old fashioned, but this is also a souvenir. So anyway, I really enjoyed that. So I mentioned the stroller pickup at 9 a.m. She decided to rent a stroller from Kingdom Strollers for the duration of their stay. And then like throughout the whole trip, Sean and Abby were like, the stroller was the best decision we made. And I have to agree, you know, the thing about a stroller is not that it's like, oh, I don't want to drag my kid around, or I know people kind of think about the stroller as an inconvenience, but it also sort of works like a grocery cart, because you can put your child in there when they are tired. It kind of gives them a break from the sun because it has the shade that will cover them. They're in front of you and not behind you. You know that they're safe. They're not getting run over by somebody else or stepped on by somebody else. If they're in the stroller, they're not like running away from you or gonna get lost or separated from you. So there were a lot of pros to having the stroller. Sean and Abby loved it, but they didn't bring one with them. They did road trip down from their home in Missouri, and they ended up renting one through Kingdom Strollers for the whole 3 days. So we picked it up, and the pickup location was over sort of by the bus stop at the Contemporary. So it was not at the Bay Lake Tower, it was at the Contemporary, which is fine because it was, you know, very quick hop over there just to pick up the stroller. The guy was so nice. He was like, hey, do you want me to show you how to like fold the stroller up? And it was so simple. It was just like a thing you had to pull in the middle of the seat, and it just kind of folded in half. Super, super cool. So we picked up the stroller and then loaded it up because we had a couple of like water bottles and sunscreen and some things, but we put those in the stroller, and Caroline got in the stroller, and we were off to the races. We made it over to Magic Kingdom. There is a walkway from Bay Lake Tower to the Magic Kingdom. One of the pros there. There's a security checkpoint about halfway to or halfway between, and everyone there was always so friendly. So getting to the park from Bay Lake Tower, super simple, super fast. Getting into the park was a struggle for Sean because he used his own thumb for Caroline's entry. So if you don't know, when you are, you know, trying to scan your ticket to get into the park, you scan your ticket, and then they have like a biometric system. So you scan your ticket, and then they want your finger to like pair with your ticket. So they know that if I give this to Emma, it's not gonna work because my sister's finger will have different biometrics than mine are. So this ticket is always paired to me and my biometrics. Anyway, he used his own thumb for Caroline's entry. The cast member at the entry told us it's not an issue as long as he's always with her when she's trying to get into the park this week. The problem was with his thumb. I think he had put it like sideways or something the first time. So it always seemed like he had to try it 3 or 4 different times to get in. Like the whole 3 days, it was a struggle for him to get into the park. I think finally at the end he might have made it in on the first try, but it was sort of a mess. But anyway, finally, we are inside the Magic Kingdom. And this begins the first of 3 totally magical days of vacation. So now I'm gonna brag just a little bit because I wanna kind of just walk you through all of the things that we did when we were at the parks. So this is like not tips anymore. This is just the rundown of the things that we did, because the first day of Magic Kingdom was probably the most magical day I have ever had at a Disney park ever. And I did not plan it this way, but it was so perfect. So we got into the park and it was just then 9 a.m. We did not plan to be there at opening, but we got there right at opening. And we, you know, of course, you walk in, you walk under the train station, and you kind of walk around the circle where the flag is, and suddenly you're on Main Street, and suddenly there is the castle. And seeing their faces light up as they got to see Cinderella's castle for the very first time was, oh my gosh, it was wonderful. I still am so filled with joy when I think about it. So of course we're walking down Main Street taking lots of pictures, and we kind of bolted for Fairy Tale Hall because I knew Caroline wanted to meet characters, and I was kind of checking wait times on my phone, and wait times at Fairy Tale Hall to meet some princesses were like really short, maybe 15 minutes. So we went straight to Fairy Tale Hall. We got to meet Cinderella first, and a visiting princess who just so happened to be Princess Jasmine. So I actually didn't go into Fairy Tale Hall to meet Cinderella the first time. I had a emergency phone call from work. So I was outside, and when I finished my phone call, they were still inside meeting princesses, and so I was on my phone kind of looking at character meet and greets for the day, because I couldn't tell the day before, or you know, days before, I couldn't tell which princesses were going to be where or when. And I knew Jasmine is supposed to do meet and greets at Magic Kingdom, I just didn't know when or where she would be. So there was a meet and greet with Jasmine and Aladdin, but at 3:30 in the afternoon, and I'm just thinking, I don't know if we can make it, because we had plans later in the afternoon, which we'll get to. But they came out and she was so happy. She's like, I got to meet Jasmine. And I was like, oh cool, that's great, because now we don't have to do it later. So we went from Fairy Tale Hall and meeting Cinderella and Jasmine to the teacups. And Caroline loved the teacups. This was so much fun. We walked on, there was no wait. And then we went from the teacups to Space Mountain, and we did measure Caroline like the night before we left, so just to make sure, because we had measured her before, but we wanted to make sure that the height was okay for everything, because one of the worst things you can do is like tell a kid you're going on Space Mountain, and then you get to the front of the queue, or you get partway through the queue, and then here they want to take the measurement of the kid, and the kid's like 2 inches too short. Miserable. So she was 46 inches, I think, and so she was plenty tall enough for Space Mountain, so we did that. She loved it. Sean loved it. I think Abby loved it. I loved it. It was fun. Maybe 30-minute wait for that one. So the crowd was, you know, I won't say it was really light, but it wasn't too heavy. I do feel like we got pretty lucky for crowds. But anyway, we did Space Mountain. We loved it. Then we went back to like the Storybook Circus area and rode Dumbo, which was fun. And then we kind of walked our way through like Fantasyland, and we did the Journey of the Little Mermaid ride. And I love that one. It's like a ride version of the movie. And it was just, it's so much fun. It's nice because it's dark and it's slow moving, but it's fun, and there's the music, and it's just delightful. And right next door to the ride is a grotto where you can meet Princess Ariel as a mermaid. And I don't know if there's anything more magical than meeting a real-life mermaid. Caroline loves to swim. They had taken her to the beach for the first time earlier that week, where she was looking for mermaids, and now she finally got to meet Ariel as a mermaid. I think that would be pretty magical as a 6-year-old kid to experience. So we went from meeting Ariel to the carousel, and we did Prince Charming's carousel right behind the castle. And while we were there, after we got off the carousel, we went back to Fairy Tale Hall to meet Princess Tiana and Rapunzel. And this was the longest wait of the day. It was about a 45-minute wait, but we were inside, so it was cool and we weren't getting beat on by the sun. And it was only about 12 o'clock at this point. So we had done quite a bit already and it was kind of nice to just slow down. But we got to meet them and it was wonderful. We left, when we got outside, we were hungry. So we went right over to Friar Tuck's and got snacks. Caroline got an Uncrustable and peeled the crust of the Uncrustable off, but Sean ate it. I got an iced coffee, which was the perfect little pick-me-up for me for the day because I knew lunch was coming up. And then we went over to story time with Belle, which was something I have never done before. It was a longer wait for this one, maybe 35 minutes for this one. Totally worth it. This was so magical. They're like, you walk through Maurice's like workshop and house, and then you get to see like a magic picture frame. Then you get to enter Beast's castle through the magic picture frame. Then you get to meet the wardrobe, and everybody gets like to play a part in a skit because we are going to tell a story with Belle as a surprise. So then we go into a separate room and everybody gets to sit down, and the kids with parts are at the front of the room, and we get to meet Lumiere, and then Belle comes in and we tell the story with Belle. The kids get a special picture with Belle. It was wonderful. It was magical. I would have done it again that same day. It was so cool. So I'm really glad we did that. So then it was time for lunch. So we made our way over to the Skipper Canteen. Like I said, I'd made reservations for us for 2 p.m. and they sat us down. We had a really nice lunch, the fried rice with shrimp, so good. And while we were at lunch, it was like another sprinkle of pixie dust. I received a text message that our room was ready. So we were kind of like hot and ready to go like to our room. So we went straight from lunch to the Bay Lake Tower. We went up to our room. We used our ticket to get into our room. We called Bell Services. They brought up our bags in the blink of an eye. It was really nice. And this was the most excited I had seen Abby the whole day. She flipped over the room. I thought it was really funny because she was so excited to see the room. But we, you know, kind of took it easy for a little while. Caroline wanted to swim, so we put on swimsuits and we went down to the pool for a little while. We unpacked, and then we took the monorail the long way back to Magic Kingdom. So we left the room around 5:45. You can take the monorail from the Contemporary to the Magic Kingdom, but it does go the long way. So it goes from the Contemporary to the Ticket Transportation Center, to the Polynesian, to the Grand Floridian, and then finally back to Magic Kingdom. So it goes the other way. But it didn't take, you know, too long. And we did get to ride the monorail, which in my opinion is Disney's finest form of transportation. So while we were on the monorail, it was like 6:05 p.m. and something I have not mentioned yet is that because we were staying in a deluxe resort, we had access to extended hours for the park. And the park was going to be staying open to us until 1 a.m. And because the park was going to be staying open to us until 1 a.m., they had opened a third virtual queue time for Tron, which just opened at the beginning of April. So while we were on the monorail, I got us into the virtual queue for Tron. Our boarding group was like 216 or something. We had a ways to go, but just getting us into the virtual queue I thought was pretty exciting. And I patted myself on the back for that one again. So by the time we got back into the park, closer to 6:30-ish, and the sun was still up, but it was not light anymore. The weather was starting to change. We could see lightning in the distance, we could hear thunder, we knew that there was a storm rolling in. Most of the rides were still open, so the queues were longer because people were starting to sort of like panic, and they're thinking, oh no, we need to get in line for a ride before they shut it down. We need to ride it before they shut it down and we get rained out. So first thing we did was I took them to the Enchanted Tiki Room. This was a memorable experience to say the very least, but I don't think any of them would ever want to do it again. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't think you need to do it more than once. It's just you have to do it once, and that's all I'll say, but I don't think you need to do it more than once. So after the Tiki Room, we did Pirates of the Caribbean. This was super short queue, maybe 10-minute wait. We did Jungle Cruise, and the wait posted on this one was way wrong. It said like 35 minutes, and we waited maybe 10 minutes for Jungle Cruise. And keep in mind, the storm is still getting closer at this point. We did walk through like Frontierland. We went to the Rapunzel bathrooms, which sounds like, why is that a destination? But it's totally a destination because it's just a beautiful part of the park where they have themed it so intensely toward like the Tangled movie, and it's just beautiful. So if you need to use a restroom and you're in the area, totally recommend those. And then we did It's a Small World, which I feel like is a classic. I love it. I know a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people think that it's annoying. I think it's adorable, and I love the message because it is a small world. We're all here together. I'm not gonna get emotional, but it was fun. I think they liked it, and also it got us in because it was starting to sort of sprinkle. When we got out of Small World, it was fully dark. Storm was coming in fast. I led everybody all the way across the park to Tomorrowland, and we got on the Carousel of Progress. I know it's about a 20-minute show. I know it's indoors. I know the storm is coming. So we made it just in time. We parked the stroller. We went inside, we sat down, and like the doors had just opened. So like we made it just in the nick of time to get in, so we didn't have to wait for the theater to rotate again. I think they enjoyed the show. I think Caroline didn't, but she was 6, you know, but I think Sean and Abby liked it. Anyway, when we came out of Carousel of Progress, it was clear that it had totally downpoured while we were inside, so I kind of felt lucky there because we did not get wet. We had been sprinkled on. We were not damp from rain, and we totally missed like the deluge. I was kind of feeling a little bit down because I was like, oh no, are they going to cancel the fireworks, or did we miss them while we were inside Carousel of Progress? So we came out. It had rained clearly, and so we just kind of walked across the walkway. We left the stroller where it was, and we made our way to the People Mover. We hopped right on. There was no wait. We did get stuck at one point, and it was like a really short period where we got stuck, just for a couple of minutes. Then we started moving again, and as we were walking down the ramp, if you've ever done the People Mover, there's like a ramp that's like a moving walkway. Kind of feels like you're walking on the moon, I think, because it's like sort of squishy. But as we were walking down the moving walkway, the castle lit up, and there was an announcement that the fireworks were about to begin because they had delayed them while we were inside the Carousel of Progress because of weather. So we walked down the walkway, we went and we got the stroller, and we stood out in front of Buzz Lightyear, and we watched the Happily Ever After fireworks show. And it was beautiful, and the music was wonderful, and I was singing along, and Emma was singing, and it was truly spectacular. Like, it was a wonderful way to end the day. We weren't crowded by people. There were people, you know, around, but we were not crowded. We had plenty of space to move around. It was really peaceful and nice, and I know that there are projections on the castle that we could have seen had we been in a different location, but I don't think we missed it because we still got the music and the fireworks display, and we were not crowded or run over by a bunch of people. So about 9:45 when the fireworks ended, we could have gotten on Buzz Lightyear, but Caroline was falling asleep in the stroller. So she was crashing. We were kind of tired, so we fought the crowd back to the front of the park, and we made our way back to the hotel, and we put Caroline to bed. Emma decided to stay with Caroline in the room, and since the park was remaining open to us later in the day, we left Caroline and Emma in the room, and the rest of us made our way back to the park to ride some more rides and for a boarding group for Tron. So we had stayed in the room for a little while. I think we had some water and maybe a little bit of wine, and then we walked our way back over to Magic Kingdom, and we did not get to ride Big Thunder Mountain. I was gonna try to do that earlier in the afternoon, We missed it because of weather. They had closed Big Thunder, and so we walked straight in and straight back to Big Thunder, and it was shut down. And the cast members back there, like there weren't even any lights on, which kind of felt sort of dangerous, but the cast member back there told us that it was due to a mechanical issue with the ride, and they didn't think that it would be open again that night. So we missed it, but then we made our way to the Haunted Mansion, and because I did not want to do Haunted Mansion with a 6-year-old. I just think that it would have been a little bit creepy and scary for her, because sometimes it's a little bit creepy and scary for me, I'm not gonna lie. So we walked straight up, and since we were part of like the deluxe resort, they did scan our ticket every time we tried to get on a ride, just to make sure that we were actually supposed to be there. And they did scan our ticket to make sure that we had a hotel reservation when we went back into the park. But there were no people in the queue for Haunted Mansion. I think we were in like the stretching room with, I'm trying to think, like 3 other parties. There might have been maybe 15 people in there. It was really, really empty. So we walked right onto Haunted Mansion, and it was really fun. And as we walked out, I was thinking, well, we could go back over and do like Space Mountain again before they call our boarding group for Tron. But as we were walking over to like Space Mountain, they called our boarding group for Tron. So we walked straight up to Tron, and we got in the queue, and I had never experienced this before. I haven't been to the parks in a while, a year. It's been a long time since I've been to the park. So I hadn't experienced Tron. I've never done it, never watched the ride through on YouTube. So I will say, I'm not gonna do a full ride review. I just wanna say the ride was very smooth. The process was well organized. There is like a locker system like in the queue, so you have to like empty your pockets and take everything out of your pocket except for this, because you have to have your ticket to open the locker. But you put all your stuff in the locker, and then you get on the ride, and then once you get off the ride, you can get your stuff from the other side of the locker. So if you've ever done Velocicoaster at Universal Studios, same idea. So that process was well organized. I think Universal does it better. But the ride itself was extremely short. So that's all I'm gonna say. But after Tron, we could have stayed, because it was like midnight. We could have stayed at the park. I don't know what we would have done. I was tired, and I knew we had another park day the next day. So we just made it back to Bay Lake Tower and went to bed. So that was just one day, one perfectly magical day at Walt Disney World. And we still have 2 more days to talk about. So the next day was Animal Kingdom Day, and the park didn't open until later. We took it easy in the morning. We had walked about 10 miles the day before. We left the room around 9 a.m. and took the bus to Animal Kingdom. So we finally entered the park around 9:45. It was a slower morning, like I said. Loading the bus was sort of a fiasco, but that's irrelevant. Needless to say, it was a huge delay to our morning, like on top of us already being behind schedule. Our first experience of the day was the show inside the Tree of Life. So we did It's Tough to Be a Bug. This show is not for everybody. My sister would hate it because she does not like bugs. I love this show. I think it's immersive and fun, and it's a little bit disturbing if you don't like bugs. That's why my sister would not like it, but it's totally safe. It's all in good fun. I love the movie. I love A Bug's Life. I think it's great. So I don't know. I really enjoy this one. The next thing we did is when our day really slowed down. So I knew Caroline would love to meet Moana. She had talked about meeting her, and I knew Moana was meeting in Animal Kingdom. What I failed to realize is that Moana had been meeting in Animal Kingdom for less than a week at the time that we went. The queue for Moana was enormous, and it did not move. We waited for Moana for at least an hour, and I mean, I think it was probably closer to 90 minutes that we waited. I don't actually have like the length of time that we waited, but it was a long time. It was outside. There was hardly any shade. There were no places to sit. And they didn't give us any updates. Like if Moana had been taking a break, it would have been nice if like a cast member had walked around to tell everybody, hey, you know, we're not moving anybody for another, 15 minutes just because Moana needs to take a break. I get that, but it just felt like nobody knew what was happening, and it would have been really nice if they'd had like a bench for somebody to sit on because there was no place for anybody to sit. The actual meet and greet, once we finally got there, was great. The set where she was beautiful. The photographer was really friendly. Moana was exceptional, and I thought it was great. It was just like the whole queue experience it needed some work. Then we took an ice cream break in Dino Land because it was hot. We'd been outside. We wanted some ice cream. And then we did Expedition Everest. And Caroline was tall enough, like I said, we measured her ahead of time. In the queue, she didn't seem to understand what the ride was. And I told her, we're looking for a Yeti. We have to find the Yeti because that's the whole point of the ride, is we need to find him. And so after the ride, I think she was a little bit scared. It is a pretty big coaster and she's 6, But we focused on the fact that we found the Yeti because I just asked her, like, did you see him? And she was like, yeah. So she found the Yeti and then she said she had fun riding it. Wouldn't do it again, like I wouldn't make her do it again until she's a little bit older, but I do think she had fun. And since she found the Yeti, I feel like she succeeded. So it was fun. After that, we did the Maharaja Jungle Trek, which is like a walking safari. Did not see the tiger, which was very disappointing, but the rest of the animals were out. The birds were out. Like, it was pretty cool to get to see so many of the birds out on the Maharaja Jungle Trek. And I think that was only the second time my mom had done that experience, but I thought it was cool. Then we did another meet and greet. We got to see Mickey and Minnie, and the meet and greet here was a little bit slower. So maybe it's just a trend in Animal Kingdom that the meet and greets are slow. Maybe they just don't have as many cast members supporting the meet and greet experience. I don't know, but I felt like it needed some work too. But Mickey and Minnie were in their little safari adventure outfits, so that was cool. And then finally it was time for lunch. So we didn't get a whole lot of stuff done at the park, especially before lunch. We did have Yak and Yeti at 2 p.m. and this was probably one of my favorite meals of the trip. I don't know that I've ever eaten a Yak and Yeti. I really enjoyed what I ordered, and it was like a poke bowl, sort of. But while we were waiting for our food, we saw Kevin through the window. Kevin is the bird from Up, and so, like, the big colorful bird. So Sean and Caroline like ran out of the restaurant and kind of chased him down to get some pictures of Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin is a her. Anyway, they did get to see Kevin. That was really cool. So after lunch, it was time for one of my favorite parts of Animal Kingdom. And this has been and always will be the safari. I could do the safari 3 times a day. I could do the safari all day long and not be bored. I love the safari. And we had a spectacular experience at the safari because there were animals out. First of all, the wait was maybe 10 minutes. Like, we almost walked right on, but like all of the animals were out. Some of them were like really close to the bus. Like, we got to see a zebra right close to the bus. There were giraffes out in the safari area just walking around, and they were so close. At one point, the safari stopped because one of the giraffes had stopped right in the road where the trucks drive, and we just kind of had to wait till the giraffe was not there anymore. And then like later on, we got to see a bunch of elephants. Sometimes the elephants are hard to see. They were all out for us. And then we got to see rhinos. There was a baby rhino that was like right in the middle of the road. It was so cool. I'm so glad. So glad we did that because it was wonderful. After the safari, we were really tired, and I won't say disappointed, but we were really tired, exhausted, especially after the day before. The heat was getting to us because it was a hotter day, so we decided to go back to the hotel, and like, we were done at the park. That we skipped Avatar completely. They're not Avatar people, so we just we went back to the hotel and got into our swimsuits and got in the pool for a little while until the rain came and ran us out because they do close the pools when the rain comes. So when we got rained out of the pool, we went back to the hotel room, and we put on dry clothes, took showers, put on dry clothes, and then we were on a mission to find the Top of the World Lounge, which is like a DVC member exclusive lounge at the top of Bay Lake Tower. I'd never been, It was closed for renovation for like a long time. And trying to get up there was sort of an experience. We thought we just could go up to the 16th floor. No. There's like a podium on the first floor in the north elevator bank. So like you have to check in there so that they can send you up in the elevator to the 16th floor. Anyway, we finally got up there, and the theming of this place is really interesting because the story is that while the parks were empty recently, we all know why, the Disney villains used the Top of the World Lounge as their hangout spot. So they're gone now because all the guests are back. But they did leave some of their treasures behind. So they might come back at any time to retrieve them. The menu itself for this place was really limited. They did have some cocktails and a little bit of food, but like no coffee, no espresso, very limited food menu. The kitchen was teeny tiny. And I thought it was sort of expensive. So I kind of almost wish it was different or better, but for what it was nice. They had a nice charcuterie board. So we did eat a charcuterie board, and we had, Mom and I drank water, and I think Sean and Abby had a cocktail with like a weird matcha foam that tasted like dirt, but that's what I think matcha tastes like. Anyway, it wasn't what hit the spot for us, so we decided to go over to the Contemporary, and Sean and Abby and Caroline went to like there's like a food place on the main level, and I don't even know the name of it. Contempo Cafe, maybe? I don't remember. But they grabbed food on the main level, and Mom and I went downstairs to the Contemporary Grounds coffee shop. So we got some coffee at Contemporary Grounds. We met them back on the main level. We went back over to our hotel room and changed into our pajamas. And then we watched the NFL draft. And it was nice. It was perfect. It was very calm, very relaxing, and interrupted only by the Magic Kingdom fireworks, which we got to watch from our balcony of our hotel room. It was wonderful. It was beautiful. So now it's time for our third day. We went back to the Magic Kingdom. Friday, the extended hours of the park were early in the morning, so the park was not going to be open until 1 a.m. It opened, I think, at 8 or 8:30, but we got into the park for early admission at 8:30. I had planned to take us straight to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, thinking first thing in the morning, especially with our early entry, the queue is going to be shorter. I was wrong. It was already 80 minutes by the time we got there. So or by the time we got into the park. So the way that early entry works is they don't actually pin everybody off at the front gate. They'll let people into the park. They just won't let people into all of the areas of the park. So like, there was a sidewalk that led over to like Tomorrowland, and if you wanted to get back there, you had to scan your card to prove you had the reservation to get in. But there were cast members there with like tablets scanning your card to make sure you had the reservation. So you could be in taking pictures at the castle, you just could not go ride rides because they had things like closed off to you. So we, scanned in, and we went over to Tomorrowland instead of going back to Fantasyland, because Seven Dwarfs Mine Train was like 80 minutes already. Like I said, it was nuts. And so we went over, we did Astro Orbiter, which was something I'd never done before. Mom and I crammed into one of those little Astro Orbiter spaceships together. Beautiful view of the park, beautiful view of our hotel, but very tight fit for 2 adults, I will say. Then comes another magical moment. We left the Astro Orbiter and made our way over to the castle because it's time for breakfast. We had a breakfast reservation at Cinderella's Royal Table at 9 a.m. However, it was supposed to only be 3 of us. When I made the reservation, I was trying to get a reservation for 5 of us because Emma was not going to stay with us the whole time. Emma had gone home on Thursday, but Mom and I and Sean and Abby and Caroline could not get into Cinderella's Royal Table when I made the reservation. So I just made it for 3. I was like, we can send them. Mom and I can find something else to do in the park until they're done with breakfast. But we went over to the castle and we checked in and we said, hey, would it be possible for you to seat 5 of us as opposed to 3? And they said yes. And so we waited just a little bit longer for our table, but we went in and we got to meet Cinderella. She took a picture with Caroline. Then we waited for our table. They called us up. And I've eaten in the castle one other time that I can remember. I think just one other time. And I don't remember being impressed with the food, but this time the food was spectacular. Service was fantastic. The characters took their time with Caroline. It was perfectly magical. And we came home with swords, like little plastic swords. Because you can choose between a sword or a magic wand, and I'm gonna choose a sword every time. Anyway, it was great. She got to meet Cinderella, Snow White, Ariel, Jasmine, and Tiana at breakfast, and it was perfect. I'm so glad that it went the way that it did, and the food was good, and it got our day off to a great start. So after breakfast, since this was our second day at Magic Kingdom, I wanted to do some things we had not done, but I also wanted to do some things that they might want to do again. So Caroline requested to ride Journey of the Little Mermaid again, which we did. And then we made our way over to Tomorrowland Speedway, where Caroline got her own driver's license and she got to drive Sean around the track. Mom and I took her into the Monsters, Inc. laugh floor. For like a fun comedy show. Very clean. It's Disney, you know, but I thought it was funny. She laughed the whole time. The show was like making fun of one of the guys behind us. Like it was a lot of fun. And then we came out of the show and we met Sean and Abby and we got the stroller. We walked our way over to like just in front of the castle because it was like almost time for the 12 o'clock Festival of Fantasy parade. So we got a beautiful spot right in front of the castle. We were not crowded. We weren't like right on the sidewalk, but we were, we weren't right on the curb. We were on the sidewalk, but there weren't people crowding around us. We got to watch the Festival of Fantasy parade, which was a priority for me on Friday because we had missed it on Wednesday. I didn't know when it was. I didn't know like what time to be there, and so we had spoken to a cast member who had told us plan to go to the early one in case the later one gets rained out, and I thought that was a good idea. So we just made it in time for the 12 o'clock one. It was perfect, and we got to see so many characters that we didn't get to meet, but we got to see them in the parade. So cool. So then from there we walked toward Big Thunder. We hit the Christmas shop, and Abby wanted to run into the Hall of Presidents. But then we went over to Big Thunder. The wait posted was 45 minutes when we walked in, but while we were in the queue, we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and we saw a huge group of probably 100 cheerleaders, because it was like a cheerleader weekend or something. Anyway, about 100 pink t-shirts got in the lightning lane queue, and so we had two separate announcements come over the intercom to tell us that the wait was delayed twice. So it was sort of irritating because I feel like they know that there's a lightning lane group coming, but whatever. Anyway, we ended up waiting about 75 minutes for Big Thunder. It was fun. I guess I'm glad we did it, but our time would have been better spent doing something else. Anyway, after that, we were kind of hot because the queue was hot, did not have air circulation. So we made our way back to the hotel. We got in the pool. And just Mom and I took Caroline to the pool. Sean and Abby didn't go with us, but while we were at the pool, a cast member came out and like played games with the kids, and that was a lot of fun because Caroline almost won. She was in second place, and then Chip and Dale showed up. So we got to meet Chip and Dale at the pool. What? Like, we didn't even know they were going to be there. It was just totally spontaneous, and she got to meet them and take pictures with them, so that was cool. And then we went back to the hotel room, and we got cleaned up, you know, showered, fresh clothes, because we had dinner reservations at Crystal Palace to meet Piglet and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger and Eeyore, and we needed to get back. So we made it in time for dinner. And the Crystal Palace is a beautiful venue, but the food was spectacular. I really enjoyed it. It's a buffet and it is done very, very well. The characters were great. They signed stuff for us. So we had dinner and then we had just enough time between dinner and the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique reservation to run over to Storybook Circus and meet Minnie Mouse and Daisy Duck, because those were the two characters that Caroline was talking about meeting at dinner that she really wanted to meet. And I thought, well, I think we can make it. And we did. It was close because as we were in the queue to meet, I think Daisy was first, they sent Daisy and Minnie to the back. Like we were next. And we had like 10 minutes before the reservation. I'm thinking, oh no, how long are they going to be gone? And so they came out just a couple of minutes later. So we didn't have to wait too long, but it was really close. We were making it by the skin of our teeth, but we got to meet Daisy Duck and Minnie Mouse, and then we booked it over to the castle. Just behind the castle is the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. We got her checked in. She got to pick a dress. She got to meet her fairy godmother in training. She got to have a special magical experience with Cinderella's fairy godmother. This was wonderful. I would recommend this at the end of the trip after the kid has, like, if your child wants to swim in a pool, I don't think you should do the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique until you're not going to swim anymore. And that's partly why we did it at the end of the trip. But like, she got to have the whole makeover at the end of the trip, the end of the night. She's not walking around in the park sweating and getting hot and being miserable in scratchy dress. And then she got to take it home. You know, her hair was up and she got to go home dressed as a princess. Like, it was just so cool. Anyway, she loved the boutique experience. After the boutique experience, we came out behind the castle, you know, and they had moved all the strollers because they clear everything behind the castle due to the fireworks, so they don't want anybody back there. So we came out, we got the stroller, and there was one more character that Caroline really, really, really wanted to meet, and that was Princess Elena of Avalor. And she just so happened to be in Fairy Tale Hall at that moment in time, and there was maybe a 15-minute wait. So we went in, we got to meet Cinderella one more time and thank her for letting us have breakfast at her royal table that morning. And then we met Elena, and Caroline had a great time. She was very happy. She was dressed as a princess. It was so cool. We came out, we got the stroller, and then we rode the teacups one more time because Caroline really enjoyed that. And we got her back in the stroller and we made our way back to the monorail. We took the monorail to the Contemporary Resort, and as we were walking from the walkway between the Contemporary and the Bay Lake Tower, we stopped to watch the fireworks. So we got to watch the fireworks 3 nights in a row, totally different locations each time, but it was wonderful. And I'm so glad we did that. It was a perfect way to end the vacation. So that night we said our sad goodbyes because they were going to load up and head home early in the morning. I think 4 o'clock in the morning was when they were planning on going home. So it was 9:30, 10 o'clock when we all went to bed. And Mom and I returned the stroller the next morning. Same place, same procedure as the drop-off location. You just walk up and give them the stroller, and that's as easy as the transaction was. And so we grabbed more coffee at the Contemporary grounds because it was like right there at the drop-off location or the pickup location for the stroller. So we got coffee, we went back to the room, we did our room tour, which I like to do at the end of a trip, just because after you've stayed in a room, you know if it works, what was broken, if anything was broken. Are the mattresses really comfortable? Like, did you have enough space for stuff? So I like to do room tours at the end, but we did that and then we went home and that was it. So we had a wonderful vacation. We had a really wonderful trip, and I'm so glad that we were able to be a part of it for Sean and Abby and Caroline. It was magical. So like I said, I'm not a Disney travel agent. I'm not a travel agent at all. I know that there are Disney travel agents who specialize in these kinds of vacations. And if you're gonna plan a trip to Disney World, I would recommend strongly that you use one of them. I don't know that I could have done it if I'd never done Disney World before. I just don't think that there's enough on the Disney website to help you plan. So if you're planning a Disney World trip and you've never gone before, maybe look into getting a travel agent for help. And if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them, but I can't promise that I'm gonna be any more help than this. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, or at least had a good time hanging out with me for a really long time. So that's it. I think I've talked enough. Thank you all for being here, for watching, and I hope you had a great time. So you guys will see me in another video really, really soon. Bye everybody.